I learned about virtual assistants and just jumped in head first and started hiring. And I had ups and downs and good and bad to all of that. And over the years, I just kind of learned the craft of hiring VAs and who to hire and how to get the right ones and all of that. And my current virtual assistant at the time, he's now the co-founder of Remote Assistant Scout, and
Wow.
he was my one of my very first VAs 13 years ago. So
Hey, y'all, and welcome to the Align Your Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Chelsea Gardner, and this podcast is designed specifically for loan officers, real estate professionals, and business owners looking to simplify and align their marketing strategies. Each week, we will dive into tools, tips, and tactics that are going to help you stay consistent, visible, and ahead of the competition. From expert insights to actionable strategies, you will walk away with everything you need to streamline your marketing efforts and grow your business. Let's get started. Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm really excited for our guest today. I have Richard Smith with me, who is a branch manager at Richard Smith of Southwest Funding, and he is the co-founder of Remote Assistant Scout, which is what we are going to be diving in today on, is all about VAs, virtual assistants, and remote. So welcome, Richard. I'm super excited to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how'd you kind of get into the mortgage space?
okay, great. First, let me thank you. I appreciate being on. I'm excited. So a little about me. When it comes to Remote Assistant Scout or hiring virtual assistants or having virtual assistants, um, I started that. I got my first virtual assistant probably 13 years ago.
Wow.
And so it's been a lot of years. I've been in the mortgage industry for 20 years. And I was at a point where I just felt overwhelmed with so much to do. And any loan officers listening know how much we have to do day in, day out. Everything from not just the busy work of working on files, but we have to also market and we have to get out there and we have social media and we have meeting with realtors and we had just database management and phone calls and incoming and outgoing, and there was just so much. And I learned about virtual assistants and just jumped in head first and started hiring. And I had ups and downs and good and bad to all of that. And over the years, I just kind of learned the craft of hiring VAs and who to hire and how to get the right ones and all of that. And my current virtual assistant at the time, he's now the co-founder of Remote Assistant Scout, and
Wow.
he was my one of my very first VAs 13 years ago. So we've worked together for 13 years. We went through the ups and downs of hiring other VAs and ended up just crafting that to the point where we decided, why don't we help more loan officers? And we started helping loan officers for the past 7 or so years hire VAs themselves and all of that. So I think I babbled on a little bit. I wasn't.
That's awesome. No, that's really cool. That's incredible that one of your first VAs is the one that also helped you co-found the Remote Assistant Scout. So I'm sure coming from that side of it, like you guys probably have a really cool combined concept because he was coming from the actual VA getting hired part and
Yeah.
you were the hiree, right? Looking for that VA. So I'm sure that is like a really like awesome dynamic coming into opening and co-founding that business. What did he do when you first brought on a VA? Like what was the first thing you were like, I am taking off my plate?
Yep. The first thing was the one thing that I hated to do. And I don't know if I was really good at it because I wasn't consistent with it because just, I, to be honest, I was scared, and that was making cold calls to realtors
Okay.
to try to set up appointments to meet with them. And so that was the first thing that I had him start doing is cold calling qualified agents that are, agents that are actually doing business and having them schedule appointments to meet with me. And so that was the very first thing. So he was much better at it than me. And sometimes we talk about we want somebody doing something that is almost as good as us, but
Right.
it ended up he being better than me and him being consistent with it. So he did it every day. I didn't do it every day, and I barely did it at all because it
It's nerve wracking.
made, yeah, it just wasn't fun to me. So yeah, that was the first thing that I had him start doing.
Okay. And is that something when you like, because I know you also help like not just loan officers, but realtors, entrepreneurs, basically anyone who is looking for a virtual assistant. So in the LO world, what is one of the things that you see most often being taken off their plate or starting with for a virtual assistant hire? I think a lot of people struggle with hiring VAs because they just don't know what to give them, right? They don't know
Right.
what they can really honestly do for them. And they're like, I have to do it all, or I need my hands in everything. And I think it gets overwhelming for people to figure out, I would love to have someone help, but I don't know I don't know what to have them help with.
Yeah, and there's a few different things, but number one being the phone calls,
Yeah.
the outbound calls, and like you said, it's not just loan officers that hire virtual assistants. So there's a lot of realtors and there's a lot of entrepreneurs, and they will have a VA not just make outbound phone calls and schedule appointments, but answer the phone too. So
Yeah.
for example, if you as a loan officer are in a meeting or in an appointment, usually what happens is a realtor or maybe a potential client will call and they'll get voicemail. And statistics show that there's a very good chance that that person is going to call the next
Go on
loan
to the
officer
next.
on the list.
Yep.
And so you lose out. And that was one of the things that I noticed a lot was if I was in an appointment or I didn't reach my phone and it went to voicemail, I would always call that person back as soon. Sometimes it was within 2 minutes. I would call them back, no answer. So then I would just continue to call, follow up. And I remember getting people answering and saying, "Oh no, we were calling, but we already have a loan officer."
Yeah, we've moved
And
on.
so, yep. Or I would call a realtor and they would be like, no, they talked to another loan officer. And I realized that I can't let my phone go to voicemail.
Yeah.
That's like the worst thing. So now what I do, and I know a lot of loan officers do this and realtors,
Yeah.
is they'll forward their phone to their virtual assistant and have that person answer the calls when they are in another appointment or something.
Okay.
And what studies showed was as long as somebody talks to somebody, they're okay. They'll wait for that call back. But if they hit voicemail, they'll usually call somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, think about that's how I ended up with my veterinarian, right? Like I was calling around vets in the area and it was the first one who answered the phone is who I booked my appointments with for my dog. So it's honestly, when you think about it, it really is. We're in this world where we want instant assistance and instant
Right.
gratification. And if you don't answer, the next person will. And if that person doesn't, the next person will, right? So it's definitely that's a huge benefit of having a VA and offloading those inbound calls when you can't take them. So I definitely agree with
Right.
that. And so what other kind of tasks can VAs help with? I know I actually have a couple VAs myself and, they help manage my calendar and appointments and things like that.
Yep.
So what are some other, or email even, like just kind of managing email responses and stuff?
Yep. You're right on with that. Helping manage the calendar. That is a huge one. I remember there was a loan officer who hired a virtual assistant, and one of the tasks that he assigned his VA was every day at 9 a.m., you're going to call me and you're going to remind me that on my calendar it states that I have to make outbound calls. So every morning the VA would call and remind that LO, hey, you need to make your calls. So
Wow.
it was kind of like an accountability type thing.
Yeah, yeah. A
But yeah,
personal calendar reminder.
yes. So helping run the calendar, even helping run, like you said, the email.
Hmm.
A lot of emails that we get are junk, it takes so much time to go through them. You know, we have like every lender emailing us and sending updates and reports on rates and things like that. So yeah, doing email. Another big one is helping run the CRM.
Okay, yeah. Oh, those
Because a
can be
lot of
bulky.
us, yeah, have a CRM, and so that was one of the things that when I first started, I had my VA do is help run that CRM, help ensure that every week an email went out to my database, following up with the database, things like that, putting together email campaigns and all of that. So that's a big one too.
That's awesome.
Another one is helping with social media
Yep.
and tasks with that. Everything from just posting to commenting and reaching out to realtors on
Yep.
Facebook and you
That's a
know
big one.
basic things.
Yep.
Um, let's see what else. Gosh, there's so much.
Yeah, I feel like, when you really dive into it, you really just want to look at what you hate doing or what you don't like doing or what you should be doing, but you're not. And
Right.
can I find someone to do it for me or implement it? Or like you said, with the CRM, like how can I get someone to really make sure that my emails are going out? Because I send them, but they're sporadic. Maybe I get one out once a month, but a VA is really going to dive in and make sure they go out every week, or making sure that you're consistent online, or anything like that. Responding to reviews and asking for reviews, all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. I think is huge benefits when you are bringing someone in. And you guys, the great thing about Remote Assistant Scout is you guys do all of the back end work. So, if you're someone that's like, I want to hire a virtual assistant, I don't know where to start, or, oh, I've hired virtual assistants in the past and it did not turn out well, right? We've all had
Right.
that happen. If you've had a VA, you've probably gone through a few of them. So on the back end, what are the things that you guys kind of do and work on for VAs that you're giving out to people, basically?
Yep. Yeah, you hit it right on. It's that's one of the really biggest mistakes we make and I've made and so many loan officers have made is hiring the wrong person.
Yeah.
And when you hire the wrong person, that's when you feel like, oh, having a VA just doesn't work.
Yep.
But it really, really does. And it's all about getting the right person. So I made so many mistakes when I first started. I hired the wrong person over and over and over. And Gerard, my partner in Remote Assistant Scout, he was I think he was like the third or fourth VA I hired. And that's another big mistake that a lot of people make is they hire the wrong person and then it doesn't work. So then they just don't do it again. And
Yep.
you've got to make sure you get the right person. So yes, what we do is we do a few things. One is it's good to have Gerard in the Philippines because he knows the culture and he can look at a resume and really know what's real and sometimes what's not real.
Yeah.
So he not only does he review resumes, but we administer disc assessments
Oh, wow.
to the VA. So we're looking at their strengths and seeing what they're really good at. We do background checks in the Philippines that a lot of times in the U.S. People don't have access to that.
Mm-hmm.
And we listen to initial voice recordings because if you're going to have them make phone calls, we want to make sure they're very articulate and sound like us.
Absolutely. Yep.
And then do the interviews. So we do all initial interviews on them, and really what we end up coming up with is about 4 to 5 of the top potential candidates. And then we interview those along with the loan officer who's hiring.
Okay.
So at that time, we'll do those interviews. We have interview questions prepared and things like that. And usually there's one or two that really stick out. And those are the ones that will make, the loan officer will make a job offer for.
Awesome. Awesome. And do you have, so if I were to say, hey, Richard, I'm looking for someone that is going to be really good at my CRM versus maybe making calls. I'm assuming you kind of maybe have them kind of in buckets of, this group is going to be who we're going to look at for making those calls or anything like that. And maybe this group is going to be my social media group and my CRM group and all of that kind of stuff. Is that kind of how you guys also look at it? So based off of what I need, you guys kind of will match a couple of different ones to us to interview.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Awesome.
We're looking at the background, of course, and their experience and what they're really, really good at. Because sometimes you may not, somebody really, really great at technical things may not be the same person who's going to make the phone calls.
Right.
But in many cases, a phone call admin or phone call freedom caller can also be a really good admin on other things and help with, the things that we talked about. Sure. And we haven't even got into just helping work with potential clients. Some loan officers hire VAs to actually do processor type work. Okay. I don't personally do that, but there's many that do. Oh, wow. So there's just, it's an unlimited amount of things you can have that virtual assistant do for you.
Awesome. And someone, that's listening can basically reach out to you guys. And even if they're not sure it's something that can be handed off to a VA, they could even just ask you, hey, I really don't want to do this, or I'm looking at maybe having someone help with this aspect of my business. Is there a VA out there that can do that?
Right. Yeah. Awesome. You're exactly right.
Awesome. And did I miss anything? Should I have asked any other additional questions of you regarding the remote assistant scout?
Let me think.
Anything that the person listening to this should know for sure?
There's a lot of questions that people have. Like they'll ask, if the VA is in the Philippines, is there a problem with the way they sound? And, sometimes there are, and that's where that falls in. You might have the wrong person because the callers that we hire, they sound like you, they sound like me. Nobody knows my assistants are in the Philippines or if they're here in the US sitting at the desk right next to me.
Yeah, so I'm sure that's a huge concern.
Yeah, it's all about getting the right people, the right fit for the right job description.
Yeah. And if you've had a VA in the past and you're like, oh, never again, they do their background here. And I think it would definitely be worth looking back into, hiring a VA and, investing in someone to help offload some of the tasks that either you don't like doing, don't want to do, aren't doing consistently. Because again, everyone goes through multiple VAs before they land on one. And it is frustrating. It's, you're spending time training, you're spending time doing these things. And then, 2-3 in, you're like, oh no, I'm just going to do it myself. I'm spending more time training than I am like getting the help. But it's when you find those people, it is 100% worth it.
Oh, yeah. And getting the right I keep saying that over and over that you need to make sure you have the right person. But you made a good point there is the right person trains themselves. Like you've got to show them your way, but not train them per se. They're going to be able to train themselves or you get the right person that's already fully experienced. And all they really need is a good script to run with it if it's making phone calls or the training. Every CRM has training, and if they know how to do one CRM and haven't learned another one, they're going to teach themselves very, very quickly.
Right. There's tons of training videos for every CRM. It's not necessarily you having to sit down and do it with them. So
right. Exactly.
That's awesome. And so how can whoever is listening to this, how can they find you and utilize or get a remote assistant?
The easiest way is going to remoteassistantscout.com and just signing up for a no obligation strategy call where they can ask questions and we can kind of show them and tell them exactly what the process looks like. So that's the easiest way, remoteassistantscout.com.
remoteassistantscout.com. I will put that in the show notes so you guys can click that and go to it along with all of Richard's information. Richard, thank you so much for joining me. I'm super excited to share all this information. I think for me, VAs have changed my business and have been able to skyrocket what I'm able to do on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. So I'm a huge advocate for VAs. So I appreciate you coming on, and I'm excited to share this with everybody.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. All right. Bye, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Align Your Marketing podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode, and be sure to follow us over on Instagram at Fully Aligned Marketing. Also, we love to connect with you and learn more about you, so don't be afraid to send us a DM. Until next time, friends, we'll see you soon.